So it's been a little while since I made a video, but I wanted to talk today about the size of watches and why size doesn't matter when it comes to what you choose to put on your wrist. So the first watch that I've got here today is this Longines Hour Angle, and this is a 36 millimeter watch, relatively thin at less than 10 millimeters. And if we're going to just talk a little bit about this, I'll show you one of the things that I love about this watch. I think that's an officer's case back. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, I'm going to put this on my wrist real quick. And just for everybody out there, I've got about a 7-inch wrist. And you can see that with a 7-inch wrist, that fits well. And I would say that most people would say that a 36 millimeter watch, you know, on a let's say a medium-sized wrist, is probably what would be considered classic, right? All right, now I want to go through a few other watches and show you why size doesn't matter. Now, just as a little bit of a history on this, I probably, in years past, maybe my first 15 years collecting, I preferred probably between, like on the lower side, a 38 millimeter watch, and I went as high as about 44 millimeters. And everyone would say they'd look great, right? Now, I, at this point, don't think that watches that are above 40 millimeters look great on my wrist, but that's my preference, okay? You may think that it looks great, but I prefer to see more than just a watch on my wrist, right? I don't like that look of my entire wrist being taken up by a watch. But again, you may have a different preference at this point in your collecting. All right, so here is a 36 millimeter by 10 millimeter watch on my wrist. All right, let's go on to a rectangular watch for a second. And this is a Cartier Tank Basculant, okay? This is a 38 millimeter watch, lug to lug. I believe that it's 38 by, I want to say 26, okay? This watch happens to be 6 millimeters thick. And I would submit that the thickness or thinness of a watch also plays into how it looks on your wrist and if you will like it or not. Okay, so on my 7-inch wrist, let me see if I can get a better angle on this for everybody there. All right, this, I'm going to say that is closer to filling my wrist. Now, yes, you know, there's plenty of room on either side, but again, my preference, not yours, my preference is that a watch not fill the wrist, but rather it would look more elegant on the wrist, okay? But again, you may be at a stage in your collecting where you just love to have as much as you can, as much as you can get away with on your wrist. And at one point, I would say that I also even considered that value, okay? Now, I'm gonna go from this 36 millimeter Longines, all right? Now I'm gonna pull out a 30, I wanna say it's a 34 millimeter, but it has a much larger dial on it, okay? Now this is actually my wife's watch. This is a Longines, and it's a Max Bill. And let me show you this one because I have a little different take on this. All right, now that I believe is a 34 millimeter. And while I think I could say or make a case for wearing it, I would say that I probably wouldn't select this as my watch, okay? Not because it looks too small, not because it doesn't work, but rather because for me, the aesthetic just isn't there, right? I think that you could argue that one 34 millimeter watch is going to be very different from another based upon bezel, based upon font sizes, thickness. All of these different things seem to play into it. And the way that I will contrast that is with a 27 millimeter watch. This is my Cartier Santos Dumont. It is a 1995 ultra thin. I think it's called an ultra flat, actually. And this is 4.5 millimeters thick. And I think that this is spectacular on a 7-inch wrist, okay? So what I want to say, I guess, in wrapping this video up is you have to try the watch on yourself and be okay with exactly how it looks, exactly how it feels. Feels a huge thing for me. I found myself finding watches looking fine, but because they didn't feel great on the wrist, I moved them on, right? And so it has to feel right for you as well. Again, back to a 36 millimeter watch. I don't have anything in my collection right now, by the way, over 38 millimeters, and really don't plan to at this point in time. So anyway, I hope that's helpful to especially those who have who are maybe newer to collecting, who feel that pressure to go for the most popular sizes and brands out there. You know, this is a very personal hobby, and I think the sooner that you get to the point where you just don't care what other people think is right for you, the sooner you'll be more satisfied with your collecting journey. So I hope that's helpful. I'll talk to you soon.